What's happening, everybody? Welcome and good morning. Today is Wednesday, November 23rd, 2022. My name is Jeremy. Oh, the coaster was stuck to the bottom of the cup. My name is Jeremy, and this is my first cup. Oh, so good. I want to say good morning to Frank, Nathan, Mark, and all the rest of you out there watching now, maybe watching later on today. I suppose for a lot of you, today's going to be an odd day, maybe a half day, a light day, tomorrow being Thanksgiving here in the U.S. But maybe some of you are more like me, and you've got a complete full day of work with lots of stuff and clients and meetings, and you'll be working a normal day and hoping to maybe finish up at a regular time and not a late time. We'll see what happens there. Good morning, Jenny. Frank says the day before work, we're going to be slammed or day before Thanksgiving, we're going to be slammed at work today. Good luck. I wish you luck. And Brian's here. Good morning, Brian. Says happy Friday for many. I bet a lot of you are taking Friday off. I'm not one of those people. We've got sales to run. One of the things here, I'll let you all know this. One of the things that we're doing that we did last year. Prior to last year, I got caught up in the chaos of trying to do a different sale for every day and just throwing so much stuff out there. And it got confusing internally, which told me it must have been confusing for everybody else. Having sales on certain things, and then some of those same things were different prices a week later. And I said, we're not going to do that. So if you see, so there's a sale on Friday. It's very specific. You're either going to want the things we're discounting or you're not. And then the rest of the season, I think there's 1 week where we do percentage off. And I think that's it. There are a handful of things going on. Everything is going on sale at one point or another. But you're not going to have to wonder, oh, is this the best deal? It'll be the best deal. If you see it, if you're like, oh, this is on sale, it'll be the best deal. Kelly says, I'm not one of those people either. The only day I'm not teaching is tomorrow, even though I had a parent reach out and ask if I was teaching Thursday. Well, I do know some martial arts schools that have a Thanksgiving class and a Christmas class and a New Year's class. And they use it as a chance to get people together that maybe otherwise wouldn't be in the same room training, and they celebrate. And I think that that's really cool. Could have a morning class for everybody and get everybody in there and just kick their butt, and they could feel like they could have an extra piece of pie at the end of the day. Good morning. Dennis says, happy pre-Thanksgiving in 1 month and 2 days until Christmas. Good morning to you. Dennis, good morning, Gad. So yesterday was a good day. Sadly, I had mentioned that there was a bigger name that I was going to interview. That bigger name did not happen. They had technical difficulties. We have rescheduled, or we are rescheduling for next month. And I want to shout out Andrew for doing all this, the logistical stuff. I give guests about 10 minutes. If you're not there in 10 minutes after the show is supposed to start recording, and you haven't messaged us, then we're doing it a different day. That's just how it goes. I did have a recording yesterday with someone that originally I had appeared on their show. This is someone who's got a show going and had a really nice time talking to him. And so now he's been on Martial Arts Radio. I had a wonderful time talking to him. And if you want to know who, you'll have to check out Patreon. I did put some stuff up on Patreon yesterday. There's a bonus video and a bonus audio version of a conversation on music and martial arts. And if you'd like to check that out, you can get onto Patreon and check it out. And if you're not a Patreon member, well, patreon.com/whistlekick. Check it out. Kelly says, I think my family would disown me if I didn't take Thursday off. It's a hard balance sometimes. I get it. I've lived in Vermont for 20 years, more than 20 years, 21 years. And most of that time, I did not have, for the first chunk of years, I didn't have people I was really close to. And so holidays, Christmas, Thanksgiving, were days for me to catch up on work. And there's an element of it where I look at it and I'm like, I kind of miss that. I kind of miss having a day where I'd get almost nothing coming in. And okay. I could sit down and I could do 4 hours of work and it almost counted as like a full day because I didn't have the distraction there. If I sent someone an email, they wouldn't write back. It was wonderful. But I don't do that anymore. We will have an episode tomorrow morning. You're welcome to join. As soon as I'm done, I'm going to start prepping the food I'm cooking to bring to Thanksgiving, which is why I'm getting up at a reasonable time because I've got to be there. We're getting there for 11:30, food at 1:30, which means I'm going to have to figure this out. I might have to do this in a crock pot so I can bring something and plug it in, because the oven's going to be packed. And it's not nice to show up to somebody's house on Thanksgiving and say, all right, how much oven do you have? Oh, negative oven space? Well, then I guess we're not eating what I brought. Dennis says that they didn't have formal classes, but always had black belt workouts on Thanksgiving morning, Christmas Eve, New Year's morning, and every Sunday. Those were always my favorite, quote, classes. Jenny's going to join tomorrow, do her cooking while we chat. Sounds good to me. In addition, had a client call yesterday, which ended up being a number of things. I'm spending a lot of time talking about the consulting stuff and getting that rolling. Some of you have likely seen ads on Facebook about it, and I'm starting to put more and more pieces together because this is a big place that I believe we can help. And one of the reasons I know that we're onto something is that I'm seeing people that I don't know well sharing ads. The ads are coming up and they're sharing them to their public pages and saying the sort of things that I would hope people would say. Hey, Whistlekick stands for some good stuff. If they're doing consulting and you have a martial arts school, you should probably talk to them because they're not like everybody else. And that's kind of the gist. And so I'm excited for that. I have a coach now. I don't think we've really talked about that. I have a coach that I meet with virtually, phone call, 3 days a month. And we had a call last night and he's just like, so, what about the stuff? And I said, yeah, did all the consulting things that I said I was going to do. And here are the next things I got to do. And so they're all on my list and they're going to get done. And I'm super excited to get them done. And then I went out and I had either a large snack or a very early dinner with someone who, I don't name names publicly, but a friend who's now going to help out with some stuff on the team. And I'm really excited about that because the role they will be filling is one I've been looking for months. And I'm stoked. I think it's going to be a really good thing. Mark ever the wonderful supporter says, Whistlekick Consulting works very well for me. Thank you, Mark. I like working with you. We've done some good stuff with Mark and I. If you know me, you know that it's the results that really fire me up, right? To see that the work I've done has made an impact, whether it's consulting or hearing from someone that an episode of Martial Arts Radio made an impact for them, or anything. I like to know that what I do matters. And the consulting work is pretty easy to spot that. And that's something that I dig. So. Pardon my yawning. Oh. Today I got to go swap a hard drive for one of my 3 remaining computer clients. What else? Have a debrief call from Free Training Day. After this, we should have all the information we need. And then we'll start putting together the playbook, because I have had 2 requests to do Free Training Days in other places. And just kind of figuring that out. Well, we do have more stuff to talk about, because Frank did send us stuff to talk about. He always does, and I really appreciate that. Thank you, Frank, and thank you to Josh for our theme music. Remember, if any of you have topics that you want to bring up, stuff that we should spend time talking about on this show, you can always do that. You can reach out to me. You can email me, jeremy@whistlekick.com. You can track me down on social media and just say, hey, I think this would be a nice thing for First Cup. Most of the time, if it's a big conversation, if it's a deeper subject, I'm going to save that for Martial Arts Radio, because we get, at max 20 minutes to talk about something on this show. And I don't like shortchanging a subject. If it's a big, important subject, yeah, let's talk about it as Martial Arts Radio. But if it's something that we're going to peter out in 10, 15 minutes, or if it's something that's really best discussed between, me and all of you, like when it's appropriate to put up a Christmas tree, then we'll do it here. All right. Here we go. These are different, right? Yeah. And so we've got some more Native American quotes for Native American Heritage Month. Humans are vulnerable and rely on the kindnesses of the earth and the sun. We exist together in a sacred field of meaning. Joy Harjo. We couldn't survive without the sun. We couldn't survive without the moon, at least not in our current form. I think there's an arrogance to humanity that we are above nature, that we're separate, that we have control. And we don't. Watch the Weather Channel for 15 minutes and tell me that we're in control. We're not in control. We play by the rules set in front of us. We've gotten pretty good at bending some of those rules. But when we break them, there are consequences. Those might be consequences for us as individuals, us as a species. I'm intentionally being vague. You can draw your own conclusions. Please don't mention any subjects that bring us anywhere even close to politics, because that's not what we do on the show. But one of my guiding rules is that the further from nature we get, the less healthy we are. This is something I've observed in food, shoes, just clothing in general. I love, actually this probably is cotton. I've got a lot of polyester fleeces. I try not to buy them anymore because they're not great. You wash them and little bits of fuzz come off and then they go somewhere. Where do they go? Cotton doesn't have that problem. Wool doesn't have that problem. Right? So I think the simplest, not easiest guideline on living is, what's the most natural choice I can make in this moment? I can buy this or that. I can eat this or that. I can do this or that. Which is the most natural? Then it says, existing as one, we are many, to tread our feet upon the world. That was his college frat motto. Cool. Kelly says, I always think the Titanic is a perfect example of humans thinking they are in control. How many things do we believe right now to be true that we'll know in 10, 50, or 100 years are not true? But we believe them so wholeheartedly. And at any given time, that's been the case. That doesn't mean that our curiosity as a species, our attempts to do things, don't matter and that we shouldn't try. We should try. But sometimes we need to remember that success could also be failure. That line in Jurassic Park, Jeff Goldblum plays Ian Malcolm. Your scientists were so concerned whether or not they could, they didn't stop to think if they should. I think I got that one right. The intent's right, anyway. Have you ever pulled off a complicated technique, sparring, jump spinning something, and then you land and somebody just goes, boop, and jabs you in the face? It's a good example. Just because you can, just because it's complicated and it looks cool, it doesn't mean it's effective. Just because it's something that you've been struggling to make happen doesn't mean it was the appropriate time and place to do it. You know where I learned to whistle? Here's a good example of that. You know where I learned to whistle? Synagogue. Not because someone was teaching me, but because I was practicing and then it worked. My mother looks at me and I was like, that was the first time it ever worked. She's like, stop it. I was so worried about if I could, I didn't think if I should. Next. The world was made of stories, nothing else, just stories, and stories about stories. Tommy Orange. I don't know who Tommy Orange is. All we have is stories. At any given time, let's say you and I meet and we have a conversation. If we're talking about things that have happened, things that one of us did, that's a story. If we're talking about how we met, that's a story. If we're talking about things that are going to happen, we are usually putting them in context that includes what is and has happened, which means they're stories. So you could tell a story about the future. It's all stories. And the better the storyteller, generally the more success. I've given a presentation. I gave it a free training day. I've talked about it a number of times. I think I've even written blog posts, and there might even be a book about this. Yes, I've written enough books that sometimes I forget what books I've written. That it's all about the world is marketing, it's value exchange, it's understanding that. But it's also the recognition that we are all part of a story, and we want to be part of a great story. That's why so many people want to help with Whistlekick, because we're telling a pretty cool story. And people want to be part of it. They want to be able to look back on chapters of the story and say, I helped make that happen. We did that together. It's the thing I have gotten most right at Whistlekick, is opening the story to include other people who want to join. And I see that in messages from people I've never even met. There was one I was responding to last night. Somebody that I know the name. In fact, this person has popped up on this show in the chat at times. And they see the mission. They see the story we're telling, and they're supportive. And they want to help. And I don't quite know what that help looks like yet. We've never met. I don't think we've even talked on the phone. I don't think so. Why do people wait in line to be the first to get a thing? Because it makes for a good story. There are times people invite me to do things and I say yes, not because I want to do the thing, but because I think the story of doing the thing might be worth telling. Everybody likes a good story. And throwing back to what we were talking about, Frank says, some things look good on paper, but don't work out well in practice, for sure. All right. And our last quote here from Will Rogers. Even if you're on the right track, you'll get run over if you just sit there. You got to move. You have to move appropriately. You have to move at the right speed, which is why the work that I do, teaching, is generally very slow. Because if I get everybody slow, then nobody gets run over. Everybody wants to be able to practice things slowly with intention. But if somebody's trying to kick you in the face while you're doing it, it's probably not going to work out well. You'll probably be sad or injured. Or more likely, you'll just stop trying to practice. You'll do the things that you are most comfortable with. Kelly says, as martial artists, we have the ability to help people with their stories. I saw a parent yesterday whose son got his black belt about 10 years ago. And she said, what a pivotal part training made in his life. It's exciting to know Taekwondo played a role in his story. That's awesome. We have these chapters and then pages and paragraphs and sentences in our stories. And we've talked about this on the show before, that everyone's the hero in their own story. You have to be the hero in your own story. Else, it doesn't work. You can't be a supporting character in your story. I've seen people try to do it. They try to make their life about someone else. It's unhealthy and it doesn't last. But it's also part of why so many of us enjoy a good underdog story. How many of us have felt like the underdog in our story, like the world was against us? As if everyone else was conspiring, investing all this time to keep us down. They're all playing hero in their story. Even the folks that you look at that you think are the greatest villains, they're the hero in their story. And there's somebody somewhere who thinks you're a villain to their story. We can't change that. I'm sure there are plenty of people who consider me villainous. And I'm going to guess at least 3/4 of them, I think the same. That's fine. But I remain the hero in my tale. And I try to be honest with myself about what that means, about what my responsibilities are as my own hero. I don't wait for divine intervention. I try to play by the rules. I try to be fair, so that if someone somewhere, here's a weird twist on the concept of the Matrix. In case you didn't know, there are people who believe that we live in a manufactured reality, kind of similar to the Matrix, but that's a whole different subject. What if there was a different version of that, where instead of computer generated, people are reading in real time our stories? If someone was reading my story, I would hope that they would think well of me, that they would look at the decisions I made, the thoughts that I had, and they would see growth, and they would find me a worthwhile person, that maybe they finish one of the books of my story and they want to pass it on to someone else and say, hey, this is a good read. That would be my hope. Dennis says, I've at times felt like the underdog in my story, you're certainly not alone. And Mark's taken the idea of being a villain. Blah, I'm curling my mustache. And Gad says, as long as the new Whistlekick headquarters isn't under a volcano, he says, pinking him out. I think it's safe to say we're the good guys. Fun fact. When I was a kid, I liked to draw. And this was before everyone told me I was a terrible artist. So I still like to draw. I don't draw anymore. But I would draw a mountain and I would build a base in it. 9, 10, 11. I thought that was like the coolest thing. What would be in here? So it was never a volcano for me, but it was a mountain, hidden under a mountain. And I've looked and I've thought, okay, there's enough slope here on my property. Should I build an underground bunker? And then you price out what it costs to build an underground bunker. And you're like, no, I'm not going to do that. Way too much money. But someday, if I build a new house, and it's a house that I have, resources to put into, maybe when we dig out the hole for the foundation, maybe we'll put a bunker in. I don't know. I've always wanted a bunker. I just think it'd be fun. Come see my bunker. Why do you have a bunker? I don't know. Who doesn't want a bunker? But if somebody has access to an underground volcanic lair, I'm game. We can talk about that. You can be in charge of lair operations. We'll put a little flag on the top. It's got to be on an island that's shaped funny, like a knife or a skull, or I don't know what else. Or it just has to. Well, no, it can't be a jungle full of snakes. I'm not going to live on an island, even under a volcano like that, because I got to go outside. I appreciate that some of you will get silly with me. Thank you. Thanks for coming by. Thanks for doing this show. I'm curious to see how many of you show up tomorrow. That'll be fun. I'm starting to think about next week and my time in Florida. And as far as I know, there's nothing that's going to keep me from doing the show every day while I'm gone. So, knock on wood, I'm not seeing any required break from First Cup. If you want to follow us on social media, Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, that's where we do this show, at Whistlekick. You can also find us on Instagram and Twitter and Pinterest, TikTok. I generally post personally. Most of my social media accounts are at Jeremy Lesniak. Twitter is at JLesniak. If you want to support the show, buy something like this really cozy, fuzzy sweatshirt, or I'm wearing the sweatpants. Whistlekick.com, use code FirstCup15. But you know what? Don't wait, because you'll save money. Okay. Tell you what, if anybody is super concerned about what the best deal is, or getting things in time as gifts, this is something I will promise this group and this group only. If you buy at the quote wrong time, starting today, I will refund you the difference for the best deal. You're going to have to watch. If you're like, oh, I bought that sweatshirt and I used the First Cup 15% off code and now it's 16% off. Hey, Jeremy, can you give me the difference back? Absolutely. I will refund that. We are getting to a point where it's going to be tough with all the deliveries. So if there are things that you are giving as gifts and those gifts are really important to you, first off, I'm honored and thankful that you would do that. But secondly, you don't have to wait. I'll refund your differences. Okay. We do this show every weekday, 6:30 a.m. U.S. Eastern Time, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. If you're part of Patreon, you got the message. We're doing a Thanksgiving evening hangout. Tomorrow, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, we're going to do a Patreon hangout on Zoom. And I put the Zoom info in, and if somebody didn't see it, can't find it, and you're part of Patreon, just message me. We do that regardless of tier. I don't care what tier you're in. If you're part of the Patreon, if you're in the $2 tier, you can join. Okay. Kelly, I'm going to West Palm Beach. I want to thank you all for coming by, and I'll see you tomorrow. Happy Thanksgiving if I don't talk to you. Peace.